So as we look on this page, here we go. Henry was lonely. One day he met Nancy, who was shopping with her mistress, or for her mistress. And we decided that the mistress was the female owner, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. They walked and talked and agreed to meet again. Henry felt like singing, but slaves didn't dare sing in the streets. Instead, he hummed all the way home. Months later, Henry asked Nancy to be his wife. When both their masters agreed, Henry and Nancy were married. Soon there was a little baby, then another, and another. Henry knew that they were very lucky. They lived together even though they had different masters. But Nancy was worried. Her master had lost a great deal of money. "I'm afraid he will sell our children," she said. Henry sat very still. So what did we learn from this page? Yeah.
He got married and had some kids.
Okay, got married and had children, so he was allowed to do that. Slaves were allowed to marry if what? If their masters agreed. What if their masters didn't agree?
They couldn't be together.
Then they couldn't be together, right? So who was in control of that?
The masters.
The masters were in control. Do you think that was historically accurate? It was. It was. And it was unusual because they had different masters and they were allowed to marry. Okay. So whose children? What slave owner owned the children?
Both of them?
That's a good question. That's a very
Or
good question.
Or whoever they get sold to.
Okay, if they get sold,
Yeah.
okay, who would be the one to sell them? Would it be her master or his?
Probably his.
I'm guessing her.
Well, here's the line. But Nancy was worried. Her master had lost a great deal of money. "I'm afraid he will sell our children." Okay, so the children must have followed the mother then. Henry worked hard all morning. He tried to forget what Nancy had said. His friend James came into the factory. He whispered to Henry, "Your wife and children were just sold at the slave market." "No," cried Henry. Henry couldn't move. He couldn't think. He couldn't work. "Twist that tobacco," the boss poked Henry. Henry twisted tobacco leaves. His heart twisted in his chest. Do you think that's how things happened?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All of a sudden, his family was gone again. Okay. And I like the connection that the author chose, how the word choice that the author used, how he twisted tobacco leaves, but his heart was twisting in his chest. It kind of paints a picture, doesn't it? At lunchtime, Henry rushed to the center of town. A large group of slaves was tied together. The owners shouted at them. Henry looked for his family. "Father, father!" Henry watched his children disappear down the road. Where was Nancy? He saw her at the same moment she saw him. But he wiped away his tears, and Nancy too was gone. Henry no longer sang. He couldn't hum. He went to work, and at night he ate supper and went to bed. Henry tried to think of happy times, but all he could see were the carts carrying away everyone he had loved. He knew that he would never see his family again. Many weeks passed. One morning Henry heard singing. A little bird flew out of the tree into the open sky, and Henry thought about being free. But how? He lifted a crate, and he knew the answer. He asked James and Dr. Smith to help him. Dr. Smith was a white man who thought slavery was wrong. They met early the next day at an empty warehouse. Henry arrived with a box. "I will mail myself to a place where there are no slaves," he said. James stared at the box and then at Henry. "What if you cough and someone hears you?" "I will cover my mouth and hope," Henry said. Now, do you think this really happened?
Oh, yeah. I heard something
We know
about
this really happened.
Yes, I heard of something like this. Like, a guy mailed, like, someone, a slave mailed himself.
Yeah, he's trying to mail himself to freedom. Okay? Why do you think he's doing this?
get free.
To get free? And what is making him think he'll never see his family again?
That he's going to get free and they're at a different plantation. And if you're free and like normally they would go to the north and your family's in the south, well, you're probably a lot of states in between them.
Okay, so there's a lot of states in between them. Is he going to see his family if he goes to the north? Probably not. Does he think he's going to see his family now? No, he's kind of given up hope on that right now, hasn't he? Okay. Dr. Smith wrote on the box, to William H. Johnson, Arch Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Henry would be delivered to friends in Philadelphia. Then he printed on the crate in big letters, this side up with care. Why did he do that? Yeah.
Because otherwise he'd fall over and get stuck on his head and they didn't take care of it.
Exactly. So hopefully they'll take care of him a little bit. Okay. What does this tell us about Henry? What else is this telling us about him? Yeah.
He hates slavery and he wants to be free.
Okay. He wants to be free. What else does this tell us?
He's brave.
He's quite brave, isn't he? Mm-hmm. That would be a character trait I'd assign to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not too many people put themselves into this position because what would happen if he gets caught?
Probably be dead.
He could be killed, right? Mm-hmm. Slaves were killed when they tried to escape. The other thing is, what might happen to those people that helped him? Dr. Smith
They could be killed.
and William Johnson.
Killed also.
They're putting themselves at risk too, aren't they? So what does that tell us about people in that time period? What do we know now about some people in the South? Yeah.
They were willing to get all the slaves free, even if it cost them their lives.
Okay, so there were people that felt strongly enough that slavery was wrong, that they risked their own lives to help the slaves get free, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be something we should really write down in our organizer. Because too oftentimes people think of things in absolutes.
I don't really have much.
People in the South, that's okay, find some room elsewhere. Write it across the bottom. The people in the South weren't all in favor of slavery. Okay. There were good people down there that wanted to help, and that did help. Henry needed an excuse to stay home, or the work boss would think that he had run off. James pointed to Henry's sore finger, but Henry knew that it wasn't bad enough. He opened a bottle of oil of vitriol. "No," cried James. Henry poured it on his hand, and it burned his skin to the bone. Now the boss would have to let him stay home. Dr. Smith bandaged Henry's hand. They arranged to meet the next morning at 4 o'clock. So what did he have to do? What did he have to do here, Kaya?
He had to hurt himself. Like he had to
Yes.
put the oil on his hand.
Okay. So that why?
So he could go.
So he could get out of work
Yeah.
and not be seen as running away, right?
Yeah.
To buy himself some time. So what does that say about Henry, that he was willing to pour acid, oil of vitriol is like an acid, on his hand?
That he really, really wants to be free.
Okay. That tells you his determination, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It really does. That speaks to his character quite a bit. The sun was not yet up when Henry climbed into the box. "Ready," he said. James nailed down the lid. Dr. Smith and James drove it to the station. The railway clerk tipped the box over and nailed a paper to the bottom. Dr. Smith begged the clerks to be careful, but they didn't listen. They just threw the box into the baggage car. So what are we learning about, again, this time period from the picture? Any clues about this time in history? Yep.
They did mail by a horse and wagon and stuff like airplanes and
Okay, because they didn't have those. And where was the crate going next?
Philadelphia.
In a baggage car, which is... Where's the baggage car?
I think it's like a mail cart.
A mail cart? A baggage car is going to be on a train.
Oh.
Okay. Hours passed. Henry was lifted up and thrown again, upside down. He heard waves splashing. This must be the steamboat headed for Washington, D.C. The ship rode smoothly, but Henry was still upside down. Blood rushed to his head. His face got hot, his eyes ached. He thought his head would burst. He was afraid to move. Someone might hear him. So now where is he?
On a steamship heading to Philadelphia.
Okay, so if you're mailing crates...
I mean, to Washington, D.C.
He's heading to Washington, D.C., and now he's on another mode of transportation, right? What is that mode?
Steamboat.
Steamboat. Okay, so very good example of the time frame, right? I'm tired of standing, someone said. Why don't we move around that box and sit on it, said another. Henry held his breath. Could they be talking about his box? Henry was pushed. The box scraped the deck. He was now on his right side. Now